Alright everyone, Hillary Clinton just can't stop. I don't know what her strategy is. It's actually confusing. It's like with Trump, you can kind of presume what he's doing at any given time. He's either going hard in or he's trying to be conciliatory in order to extract a deal from somebody. But that's because he's actually in a public position. He's actually the president of the United States. What's Hillary Clinton been doing for months and months and months? It never stops. It's constant. This group of people is responsible for me losing the election. It was those sexist Bernie fans. Oh, where was the outrage? Where were these pink hat people? God damn them when the election was going on. If they don't wait to protest, you should have been out voting for me. Like 99.9% of them didn't vote for Hillary Clinton to begin with and didn't actually go to vote because they were her most fervent fans. Yeah, they showed up to protest for days at a time. They were obviously excited about that. I think they probably voted for you, Miss Clinton. Now she comes out again and repeats the tired old line. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that there was collusion between Trump and the Russians. I'm sure that he helped them hack into the election. There was no election hacking. Obama and yourself and a million other people on the left, when you thought it was assured that you would win the election, came out and reassured the American people time and time again. By the way, according to Obama's latter statements, this makes him a total liar because he then said, oh yeah, we knew that there was fishy stuff going on, but I didn't want to say anything because I thought Hillary Clinton would win. Sure, Obama, you just didn't tell anybody. You figured that the U.S. election was being tampered with by a foreign entity. And you didn't say anything because, yeah, but their tampering will be like, it won't be substantial enough because they're obviously at bat for Trump. I disagree with that. I think they would rather have Hillary Clinton in that position. I think the Russians would much rather deal with Hillary Clinton because she's predictable. Real easy to tell what she's doing. So far, you've managed to nail Michael Flynn to the wall on Turkey as opposed to Russia. He was let go of by the FBI. They're like, yeah, there was no wrongdoing here. They dropped the case. They're investigating him for his ties to Erdogan's people. Manafort, something fishy maybe went on there, but you don't appear to have any proof. There's no actual criminal probe. You're just questioning people. Jared Kushner, Don Trump Jr., you haven't heard much about that case lately. So in all of these cases, you assume that there's deep-seated Russian connections. We then find out that none of these connections are criminal in nature. And yet you're still rambling about, no, Donald Trump helped the Russians hack the election. That's funny. You said that they couldn't possibly do that when the election was going on. See, the problem is, they thought that they had rigged the election properly. They thought that they would be able to pull it out of their ass. What did I say during the election? General elections in this country are actually pretty damn fair. There isn't a whole lot of fraud and rigging going on. Case in point, a lot of people thought it would happen and Trump would be robbed of the election, and it didn't happen. He still won, which is what I said would happen. That's because the establishment in this country is really, really good at rigging primaries. If you rig the primaries in both parties, if you use that corporate cash to have two controlled opposition candidates, why the hell do you need to rig the general election? You can let nature take its course. Let them beat each other over the head. Let them have their debates. It's totally fair. Because you don't care who wins. If Goldman Sachs funds, as they did, Obama and Romney, do they really care which one wins? They got them both in their pocket. They don't care. They're the same thing anyway. They were saying the same things, suggesting the same things for months and months and months. I had to sit there and wonder who the hell is talking. Like, if you're not showing a picture of it, if you're just listening to an audio clip, you wouldn't even know based on substance alone whether it was Romney or Obama in the first place. Obama versus McCain. Okay, McCain's more boring and he talks about wanting to bomb people more. What else is really the difference here? There is none. There's not a whole lot of difference. John McCain certainly didn't want to bring up Bush too often. Oh, yeah, I have a difference of opinion with that there Bush. It's what happened. So if you've got the primaries rigged and the two main party candidates are both corrupt, well, you don't care who wins. It doesn't matter. You don't need to rig the general election. It's so much easier to rig the primaries because the primaries are largely, they're overseen by the parties themselves. And the parties themselves are corporations. And the candidates they tend to field are corporate-friendly candidates, bank-friendly candidates, globalism-friendly candidates. So they figured they probably originally, their estimation was, hey, this is going to be Hillary Clinton versus Rubio. Hillary Clinton versus Jeb. They wanted to make Jeb the nominee. Jeb quite clearly was the anointed one. They wanted to have another Bush, as though this would possibly make any strategic sense. They wanted a Bush versus a Clinton. And there's your tell for their tendency to rig primaries as opposed to the general. No sane individual, if they were actually independently functioning, like they weren't corrupt, they were just, they actually believed in like some Republican ethos. They actually thought the Republican Party was moral. No sane individual would ever have concocted in their mind that it was a good idea to even consider Jeb Bush viable, to even consider Jeb Bush a likely candidate, to even consider giving money to Jeb Bush, and yet money poured in. No sane individual making that bet would actually think that it was a good idea to have another election which was Bush versus Clinton. Third time's a charm, says Jeb. There's your tell for how corrupt the primary systems are, not the general, the primaries. Jeb drops out. Who do they flock to? Lion Ted. Oh, he's the new establishment baby. And we got to talk about Ted Cruz later. Oh, trust me. This is going to be a good one. Ted Cruz, who is a neocon. He is not a constitutionalist. He is not libertarian. He's a moralist neocon. He's also ineligible. Then who do they flock to? Oh, little Marco Rubio. Again, he's a little bit different than Ted Cruz. He's not really a moralist. He's more anti-moralist, actually. He's almost like a little bit of a business Democrat, actually. And of the those three, he's the most sane. But Trump wins anyway. They were taken aback because they haven't had to do anything in a general election in quite some time. Their rigging of the general election is limited to using legalese and the party system in order to try to keep third-party candidates from ever cracking through. Because then they'd have another candidate they'd have to control that could get up on a debate stage. And they're going to have problems, but why do you think they're going after the internet so whole hog in the sense of people who make political and social commentary and analysis? Because a lot of them support third parties. They're realizing the TV debate sort of thing that they used in the past no longer is quite as relevant. They're losing control. They've also lost control with Trump. So Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and the establishment, the never-Trumpers, are the ones that tried to rig the election by rigging the primaries. Don't need to touch the general election. And so they're sad because they lost. They lost to somebody who there's a fairly strict delineation between the people who are meant to fund and then get money off of political candidates. That is, they give them money and then they get some sort of contract, some sort of kickback, some sort of favorable, they get some ambassador at their wedding or something. Somebody like Trump, there's a delineation between that and those who actually do the running, who actually look pretty for the cameras. There's a difference between the people that are supposed to fund. Within the two-party system, the mentality seems to be, you are either funding things and you can get all sorts of goodies if you fund. You'll get people at your wedding. You'll get to go to some foreign country, meet with some dignitary there. You can get contracts. You can get extractions. You can get, the bureau will look the other way when you're building this building of yours. Don't worry too much. Yeah, the environmental impact is substantial. Don't worry. We'll fudge this study. That's the sort of thing you get. You get these slime barrel politics. And those who run. Those who run are supposed to cake the makeup on and be charismatic and coherent. As in, they're not supposed to be Donald Trump, but he ran anyway. They probably originally thought it was a joke. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump spent 10 years or so calming the fears of both sides and saying, I'm doing this for the cameras. Yeah, I probably will pretend to run, but don't worry, I'll win a state or two and drop out. And say I had a good time, and I'll just increase my brand, and I'll be very nice to everybody, and then I'll be funding you again anyway. Don't worry about it. You know, he would have turned around and funded Clinton or Jeb or something. That's what they were hoping, but he didn't do that. On Super Tuesday, it was already too far gone. There was no longer any way they could salvage anything. To the point where they were throwing money at somebody like Kasich. Kasich wins one state. They're still throwing millions of dollars at him, hoping and beyond hope for a solution. They then fail to rig the general election, so they try to implant it in people's minds that Russia rigged it. Oh, Trump only won because of Russia. It's an attempt to hobble a legitimate democratic system. Democratic republic, of course. But Trump won. He won fair and square, and it's time to get over it. When Hillary Clinton keeps rambling about this, I don't know if these career politicians understand it yet. But when you keep bringing the same thing up over and over, people become desensitized to it, and eventually they just see you as a whiner. They see you as the woman who cried wolf in this case. And that's how Clinton is becoming. She's basically burned off all of her political capital that was remaining. Partially because she managed to lose, and Bernie has made light of this, which was actually hilarious. And she attacks everybody in the country, and now she's once again calling into question the election itself, despite both parties beforehand saying the election is ironclad. There is no tampering, there is no fraud, there is no hacking, and there's no possibility of these things happening. The second that Trump won, they said, oh, this must have been hacked. This is terrible. They were influencing the election. They even get Mark Zuckerberg to weigh in. Oh, yeah, Russian bot accounts bought like ad space during the election. Ooh, they were supporting Trump. There are thousands of these Russian troll accounts. The U.S. Air Force maintains over 70,000 sock accounts on Facebook. That was a report from years and years ago. I wonder how many they field now. It's just what states do, but that's not election tampering. That's called botting. It's called trolling in some cases. Some private individual can field an army of sock accounts and go have a good time. That's just the way that things work. That doesn't affect the ballot box. Those troll accounts on Facebook aren't actually pulling the lever. They're not pressing a button in the voting booth. It's a totally different issue. So they swayed somebody's opinion. Okay, which is going to sway people's opinions more? Some YouTuber who you can verify, yeah, they're not actually taking money from Russia, with hundreds of thousands of subscribers saying, yeah, you know, Trump this and Clinton that, someone weighing in with their honest opinion, or a handful of troll accounts bought by some Russian firm. Which one has more impact on the election? Hillary Clinton is just sour grapes because she can't realize, she can't understand. I outraised and outspent Trump 10-1. I had the entire media in my pocket, you know, the same media that I now proclaim hated me for some odd reason. The Clintons used to do this anytime they were questioned or criticized. They said it was a vast right-wing conspiracy. Everybody hates us. CNN hates us. MSNBC hates us. We're such mavericks. You were never mavericks. You gave marching orders to these people. You tried to intimidate them. Obama did this a little bit too. He tried to harass journalists. Then meanwhile, they're too busy talking about how Trump merely ignoring the lamestream press is somehow an attack on the First Amendment. Like he doesn't want to talk to them enough, so he's denigrating their First Amendment rights. Their First Amendment rights mean they have access to him 24/7. They should be able to crawl into his bedroom and record him snoring in the early hours of the morning. But at the same time, it's okay to dig dirt up on journalists and investigate them with the FBI like Obama did. It's okay to spread literal conspiracy theories about the media hating you when you're actually, according to WikiLeaks' own like DNC dump, you're giving them marching orders. That's okay. That's not an attack on the First Amendment. It's okay to promote heavy-handed censorship of totally mundane political commentary online. That's not an attack upon free speech. No, not at all, because these people don't always have like master's degrees in journalism. It's actually because they don't have hair plugs and they don't get seven-figure salaries from some multinational corporation that you can easily control. You're terrified of the decentralized press. You don't have enough money in the world to pay off everybody anymore. There are too many tens of thousands of major creators all over the internet driving political and social commentary. And this scares these people because they don't have that much money. They can't blackmail them all. They can't bribe them all. It's impossible. So they're sitting there scared. Oh, good. It's good that you're scared of the rise of the true free press. It's very good for the world that you're scared of that. It's very good for the world that you failed to rig the election, as you usually do by simply having two candidates who are both controlled opposition. That's how you rig an election. If you can determine who the candidates will be through an unfair primarying process, it doesn't really matter then, does it? And you also control the media, so you can always lock out the third-party candidates that might be more honest. You're having problems doing that now, too. Good. Good. I love to see the chaos. It's wonderful to me. It's wonderful to see Hillary Clinton go off her rocker and start blaming everybody under the sun for her loss. I hope her fans keep this in mind in the future, as she continues to harangue that she is fundamentally blaming you for every problem in the country. even if you voted for her, campaigned for her, and knocked on doors for her. You should have worked harder, you little peon. Didn't you know how important it was to have a career politician in the White House, especially one named Hillary Clinton? Well, damn you all, she says, essentially. That's about all. Peace out.